a Better Place series is just like an excuse for us to talk to some of our friends in the local grain space. But more seriously, it's about like sharing the work and learnings of bakers, farmers, millers, brewers, etc., that are doing awesome things in the local grain in Australia and further afield. We're sort of out who we would like to chat to. But we're talking to Josh today because he's one of our bakers, and he runs Tinto Bakery in Shepparton. They opened their awesome bakery, brick and mortar bakery. I believe this will be recorded, so I'm
everything works
afterwards. And I think you can ask questions in the chat, but yeah,
get to at the end.
If we miss them, just like ask it again, but hopefully we can see it all. Yeah, anyway, thanks for jumping on, Josh, when you've probably had a pretty hectic couple of weeks.
I was saying before, baker's bedtime if you're going to get up and bake. Well,
it's not too bad. I think I'm optimistically a 9 p.m. bedtime, but it's not very realistic. So, yeah, we're good. We're well in the ballpark. Yeah.
What time do you have to get up in the morning?
Up at 3, in the bakery at 4. So yeah,
solid.
On a baking day, but that's 4 days. Yeah, just 4 days a week. So
yeah, right.
Sleep in on the other days.
Yeah, nice. So Monday and Sunday are your days off? Is that Monday?
Yeah. Sunday and Monday completely off and closed, and Tuesday's a prep day, so we can start late and have a pretty cruisy day.
Yeah, lovely. Well, do you want to start with how you got started with baking? Like go back to the beginning and then I don't know how you got to where you guys are now.
Yeah, and I guess what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. So I had baked sourdough bread at home for a fair while, probably 8 to 10 years in various forms. It was pretty dodgy at first, I think, and it probably got better at some times and worse at others. But would do just probably 2 loaves a week at home for us to eat, and that was all it was for a long time. When we moved to Shep, I was working in a cafe and sort of started playing around with some of the food on the menu at the cafe and just found we couldn't make anything without good bread. Like we couldn't get good bread, and you just like, especially for cafe food, you don't have toast, you don't have sandwiches, like we just couldn't do anything without good bread. So I'd bake a little bit for the cafe and we'd use it, still just putting it through like a couple of loaves at a time, and the like Dutch oven, cast iron pots, 1 or 2 in the oven, and some bagels and that sort of thing for the cafe. And then when, I think it was probably early 2020, it was probably just after the first lockdown had started, we had extra time on our hands because the cafe was not open as much, and so I'd been baking lots of hot cross buns, and the cafe was planning to close on Good Friday. And we just thought, like why not? An excuse to see all our friends as much as anything. We thought, well, I'll make as many hot cross buns as I can. We'll open the cafe, like my wife Beth and I will open the cafe, and I can make coffees and she can sell the hot cross buns, and we'll just see how things go. So I made, I think it was a couple of hundred on that first Good Friday, and they all sold. I'm like, this is interesting. There might be something on it here.
2020, did you say? Right, yeah.
Yeah, it started 2020. So they were like they were all through the home oven. They were spread all over the kitchen bench, overnight proving. We'd done sourdough ones, so they needed, 16 hours. So we had them on the tables, on the benches. We had the heater going overnight to keep the room warm. And yeah, that was the very beginning. And then started to do like a bit of a pop-up, I guess, in the cafe once a week. And we'd just tried making croissants, did some bread, still doing bread through the home oven for a while. And that was sort of building each week. We'd sell a few more, and we'd just make as many as we could, and we'd sell them all every week. Like, I would keep doing a bit more. And ended up renting a little kitchen space. So it was owned by a hazelnut farm who needed to have a registered kitchen so that they could sell roasted hazelnuts, but they'd roast them once every 8 weeks. They'd need the kitchen for half a day, once every 8 weeks. It just sat there empty the rest of the time. So yeah, they sort of agreed to rent that to us, which was it was a really good place to stay. It was like pretty bare bones, but it had everything you needed to get registered with the council. Standstill benches, tiled floor. We had half a cool room, which we were sharing with some fertilizer, and it was all pretty dodgy at the start. But and bought a little Rovco oven, which is for those who don't know, it's probably like somewhere between a home oven and a commercial oven. So you can fit 12 loaves normally in a Rovco, which is, in a home oven you'd only ever get 2. So it's a big step up from a home oven, but it's still a lot smaller than a commercial oven. And it runs on single phase power as well, which is like standard household power. You can run it, whereas most of the bakers ovens run on 3-phase, which is quite expensive to install. So they're like a good bridging one, and there's a few other models in that sort of area. But we got one of those, and that was a big changer for bread, and we do a lot more bread. And then that pop-up in the cafe ran pretty well through till like end of 2020. And as the lockdown started to ease, we just sort of found it dropping off. Like, we were really, really busy peak September 2020, and we'd do like 400 pastries and 60 loaves of bread out of the cafe every Saturday. And then dropped off as people started to be allowed out and about, and started doing farmers markets, which was great. We'd travel around. We got to meet lots of new people. We'd meet people from other towns. We'd meet heaps of people who've become our suppliers now, like other farmers and growers. And that was a great opportunity. And then I think 2021 we started to find that like the lockdowns were coming again, and we had farmers markets getting cancelled on Friday afternoon when we'd done 4 days worth of prep, and sort of had all our food ready, and they just kept coming in. So we got an old food truck, it belonged to some of our friends, and set it up as a semi-permanent out the back of a shop that we'd just taken the lease of. And then that was where we because it was takeaway, we could trade no matter whether there was a lockdown or not. So traded through 2021 in that food truck, just doing 2 days a week, and it would be like a 3-hour window in the morning. I'd just go 8 until we sold out.
Was that still like you weren't employing anyone at that point?
We employed someone quite early, so probably I think midway through the cafe pop-up. Because it was so intensely like one day that we were baking for and trading for, we employed someone 2 days a week to help with that. We just needed extra hands on deck for the morning when we were trying to put all the bake through. So I had one person sort of part-time, and then they went to full-time the next year. And while we're out of the truck, we probably sort of went between 1 and 2 people, because we'd sometimes do the markets and the truck on the same day when they started to open up. We'd do both. And then transitioned to, so we started working on the shop front. We got the lease early 2021 and worked on it through that year, and opened up in March this year. So
back to the very start though, like maybe you touched on this and I was paying attention to comments, but how did you actually teach yourself? Like, were you looking at books, or were you talking to other bakers, or YouTube, or how did you
bread was pretty comfortable. Like, bread I'd done for so long that I felt comfortable making bread, and I think for 6 months we probably mixed it by hand, so it was fairly we probably weren't scaling it that effectively, because we were just doing everything that I did for a home bake but bigger. And because we did the bread, so we'd do it all, like we'd shape it and put it into a proving basket and put it in the fridge overnight, or in the cool room. So we sort of had a lot more flexibility that way. We didn't have to have it ready, like time when it was all ready to bake. We could just put it all in the cool room and bake it all off first thing in the morning. So Yeah, and then the rest of it was just, yeah, very self-taught. So croissants just started doing, we did one batch a week and they were pretty rubbish at the start. Like, yeah, probably for 6 months I wasn't happy with them, but other people were sort of enjoying it as a novelty because there's nowhere, we had the benefit, there's no one in Shep that does something similar. So, yeah, we just got better and better every week. And yeah, I think like bits and pieces from cookbooks. Um, I'm very much a learn as I do it kind of thing. So I just, it's like do it once and think, oh, this is what's wrong with it. That's how I'm going to fix it. Okay, I'll do that better next time. And then just on repeat. And I'd see things, you'd see things on Instagram, what other people were doing, or it wasn't a lot of like tutorials and YouTube and that kind of thing. It was more just see something, think of like how they've gotten to that point, and work backwards from there. It was really beneficial. We went and did a couple of short stages at other bakeries, so doing a day of free work just to learn a bit from them. I did that in probably about March 2021, so after about 1 year into the business, 1 year before we opened the shop. And that was really, really beneficial. I think every single bakery is really, really different from each other and how they structure their production and how they plan things. And there's so many different moving parts that you can change, and people are using different ingredients, they're making different products. So just to see that, and you just absorb like all this information, and even if it's not something that you can implement straight away, it's something that you have in the back of your mind. And like if a problem arises, oh, that's how they did that at that time. I could probably try that, or I could do this differently, or I could, yeah, that was really valuable. And I think the baking community is incredibly supportive, and willing to share ideas. So that's been, yeah, very valuable to us.
Were you staging at bakeries in Melbourne, or?
Yeah, we did two in Melbourne. Just two one-off days. It was really hard to find time because we all work on pretty similar schedules, and we couldn't really take those Thursday, Friday, Saturday days off. We did 3 different days. So we did one day at Redbeard and Trentham. I did one day at Falco in Collingwood, Fitzroy, and one day at To Be Frank, which is also in that area. So yeah, we're really thankful to those guys and learnt quite a lot. Yeah.
And how do you feel like you kind of built community or built your customer base? Is it through like having a different kind of, like, it feels like you took up opportunities at different points, and in doing so, met different groups of people that continue to support you now? Would you say that's true, or?
Yeah, I think like that's always been a big thing for us, and it's been a big, like, I guess it's been a big driver just to be like to have the opportunity to connect with people. So working in the cafe beforehand, because we only moved to Shepparton probably like 1 year before we started the bakery. But I feel like for me to work in a cafe, got to know all the customers there, got to know people, coming through the cafe. And my wife, Beth's a teacher, so she was working at the school. So there'd be a lot of people at the school that she was connected to. And I think, yeah, it's just grown from there. Like we have some people who walk in off the street, who've never heard it, just see like the shop or see something, and they'll walk in. And we have people come in who, I think like probably the lockdowns were beneficial. We'd have people always dropping, they'd get a little care package and drop it off to a friend or a family member in isolation. And that, yeah, I think if your product is good, then that word of mouth really helps you, and it really speaks for itself. So yeah, it's been, I think, and we're so, yeah, we feel so supported being in a small community. I think Shep is the right kind of size where it's still really important to someone that you've opened a business in town and they really care. And we'll have people come in and are like, oh, or you'll talk to people on the street and you'll say you've got a bakery and they'll say, oh, I don't really like bread, but I'm going to come in and buy some stuff because I want to support you. And people will come across town for, yeah, exactly. I'm gluten-free, but I'll come in and I'll buy some stuff and I'll find someone to give it to. Like, yeah, so, yeah, it's been incredible like that. And people, yeah, go out of their way to give you a go and recommend you to friends. And we've really felt supported by that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's so good for Shepparton. Like, I feel like there's a really good community there that's like ready for more businesses like yours, and it's just not happened for so long. So I feel like you've been embraced, wholeheartedly. I guess what else we wanted to talk about was like, how did you know that it happened a bit slower than you were expecting because of the fit out of the bakery and stuff, but how did you know you were ready to take that next step to have the brick and mortar bakery? And yeah, it feels like a big leap. Like, you started in 2020 and now you have a shop.
So probably, it did. I don't know. I don't know if we were really ready. That's probably the the worst part. No, I think we always could see that there was demand there, and we had we felt fairly comfortable with running the cafe side of things and opening that up. In some ways, you probably just bit off more than we could chew and just figured it out from there. But it's been a steady process. I think we're always just driven by there were things we still wanted out of the business that we weren't getting from how it existed in its current form. So we wanted, one of the things was we really wanted a space where we could sort of make the space our own and welcome other people in and sort of have a space where people would feel safe and comfortable, and you could kind of, I don't know, at a market, you're in someone else's space and you can communicate with people, and you can, but you might only get to see them once a month or once every 3 weeks. You don't get that really regular contact and those sort of deeper relationships and community sort of connections.
Yeah.
Another one was probably like employment. Being able to offer employment to other people and build a bit of a staff culture. Beforehand, it was only sort of 2 or 3 of us. So we didn't quite get that real feeling of community, which we definitely have a lot more now. And just start like customer contact. Like, I feel like we used to work, 50 hours a week in a little back room, and then we'd see customers for 3 hours a week on the weekend, and that was it. And then you'd go home and you'd work in a back room. And I think now just to have, we have customers around, we have more staff around. There's just so much more of a social aspect to it, to be able to develop it that way.
I remember talking to John Reed at one of his workshops, and he's talked so much about the social element of baking, which I'd never really thought of. I'd always thought that bakers were kind of night just wanted to exclusive, but so many of you crazy bakers are so social. It's so nice.
And I think you appreciate both sides of it. Like, I still appreciate the hours that I get to spend on my own working, and having that quiet time, but definitely, the social contact and being able to share what you've made and see the other end and the results and people enjoying that. That's definitely valuable as well.
Yeah. And I think that team culture that you talked about is what, from visiting lots of bakeries that we do, it's definitely something that you notice that good bakeries have a good vibe and people want to work there and people enjoy being there. And that's, front of house and back of house, or people that come in to be there and people that are in the back making the stuff. And I think about that. So.
It's our all-time favorite Google review. Is someone said, excellent pastries and coffee, and it seems like a really great place to work.
Yeah.
I don't know what motivates you to write that in your review about a bakery, but it's very nice.
For sure.
Yeah.
Brandon wanted to work with us. You can too.
We should move on to the next question before we run out of time. But I just wanted to briefly talk about how you're working with more whole grains. Like, I feel like, I mean, obviously we're producers of whole grain flour, so it would be in our best about whole grain flour. I think you're doing some really awesome things with whole grain flour, and like maybe because you don't have a super conventional baking background, like these ridiculous expectations of what ingredients like you should be using. Happy to work with local ingredients. Like, can you talk a bit about your ingredients and your approach to whole grain?
Yeah, I guess it's something that we really valued at the start, was using using the right ingredients and locally produced ingredients, and quality, like where the farming practices are sort of things that align with our values. But yeah, I like, honestly, the product speaks for itself. The moment the water hits that flour, like freshly milled whole wheat flour, the smell is just intoxicating. It's so good. There's so much flavor. There's so much nutrition, like the nutrition in that compared to white flour. I remember seeing a slide from Dr. Stephen Jones, and he put it up, and it's like, these are the things that are in white flour. And it's like protein, starch, two things. And then here's everything that's in whole wheat flour. And there's like vitamins, nutrients, mineral, like there's this list of like folate. There's just so much in there that's going to waste. So I think that, and just like, the nutritional benefits of whole wheat flour. And I think that's why it tastes so good. Like, your bodies know what's good for them, and when they taste it, they think, oh, this tastes really good. Like, there's so much flavor here. In terms of putting it into products, bread is not too hard. You can make really good bread with whole wheat flour, and it's not too difficult. Probably a customer education thing is a harder one. People like bread that looks white, and like they like what they're used to. They like it to be. I honestly don't even know if it is about the texture. I think it's mostly just about the color, that people want the bread to look a certain way. But you'll be able to, like, there is like opportunity to educate people, and people would ask us every time. We make 2 loaves, like, well, our main 2 and what we did at markets was 2 loaves. One is like a mostly white loaf. It's about 1/3 whole wheat, 2/3 white. And we've got 100% whole wheat. And every time someone would ask, I just say, this loaf's better, but if you want white bread, you could have this loaf. And I'm like, it tastes better, it's better for you. And you just like, I think for anyone who was open to it, they would be happy to try it. And so many customers who'd come back and just like the flavor and the sweetness and of using whole grains. When you go over to the like pastries and cakes side of things, like it does start to become more challenging. I think, like, realistically, there's probably just certain products that aren't suited to whole grain, and we try and squeeze as much as we can in there. We do 10% into our croissants, just because I think even that is making a difference. The things like cookies and cakes and anything that's not really reliant on like flour, like white flour, to create a really light, fluffy texture, is just, they're even better with whole wheat, because you're getting more flavor, but you're not sacrificing anything, and you're probably getting a more tender crumb. You're getting something, with more flavor, more nutritional value. Any like, not that I think there's very much, but sometimes people find like a slight bitterness with whole grains. Like, if there's sugar in there, you're not gonna taste that at all. So I think like anything that's a cake or a cookie or anything like that, we're 100% whole wheat, and it's this specific flour, and that's something else you can sell it by, or it's like maybe it's other grains, or a million other grains. You're doing buckwheat, or you're doing something like that. There's so much opportunity there to to explore and to include different ingredients. And people are starting to realize that flour is an ingredient and it does have flavor. It's not just like a neutral sort of substrate for carrying other ingredients, but there's something more interesting there.
Yeah, awesome. Ian told me that, I don't know if this is a trade secret that I'm not supposed to.
Right, never tell me anything.
Ian told me that you had maybe a whole wheat rosella bread and you were selling it as a whole wheat loaf, but people weren't buying it.
Yeah.
And it was like, it was going off the shelves, which I think is really nice.
Yeah. We just learn. You've got to learn how to phrase things. Like people don't want to hear about whole. I feel like the word whole meal has this really negative association. When people hear whole meal, it's like, nah, that's that brown weird stuff, like in a Wonder White thing, and it tastes really gritty and not good.
Yeah.
So yeah, we definitely are careful the way we talk about it.
Yeah.
And we call it a Rosella whole wheat loaf, and that gives people like the chance to ask, and they say, oh, what is the Rosella? And as soon as they've asked, like, you just got free rein to go for it, and like tell them all about it, and say, this is where it's grown, this is where it's milled, this is how often we get a delivery, this is why it tastes really good. So I think it's just opening up that conversation.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's very cool.
And you work with a few other local producers. What's your experience been? I guess it's your only main experience because you haven't run your own business before, I guess. But what are the pros and cons of working with local producers? Have there been challenges that you've had to overcome, or has it been smooth sailing?
Yeah, there's definitely challenges. I think logistics is one. Like, you have to work around schedules, you have to work around delivery, you have to come up with creative solutions of how you can get something from A to B.
Yeah.
Like price is often an issue. It is more expensive, but you just sort of have to pick what you value and prioritize it. Like, you can have certain things that you might be willing to compromise on, and then you have others that you just pick and you say, well, that's, like, we're going to buy these eggs because they're the closest eggs and they're produced in a way that we agree with and they're great eggs, and like they will tell us the price that we need to pay to make their production work, and we'll find a way to pay it. And if that means you need to put the product up at the other end and talk to customers and educate them as to why it's more expensive, or if it means you need to find room somewhere else, I don't know. I think there's a lot. It's probably a bit too much emphasis on that, like, we don't have control, or like this narrative that we don't have a choice, or we're like stuck up against a wall and there's no way out, there's no options, like it's too expensive, we can't possibly do it. But you've always got options. There's always different ways to solve those problems. And like, even the way we view the business as a whole, like, we're not thinking about profit as like the main output of the business. Like, there's so many different outputs, and whether that's we can run a business that just breaks even, but it allows us to employ people locally and give them a great, safe, healthy work environment, and it allows us to order X amount of flour from someone like you, and to order eggs from here, and to not like hassle you about price and chase you on this thing and that thing. And like, that's, for me, that's what the output of the business is. Even if, like, sure, great if there's a profit at the end of the day, and like, we need to run it in a way where we're not stressed about that, and we're not like always looking over our backs thinking, oh, are we going to have enough money to pay our bills? But yeah, like, at the end of the day, and I have to remind myself of this every day, because I'll look at the thing like, oh, we're not selling enough, like, are we going to have enough? And then you have to sit back and reflect and remember, like, even if that side of the business could be doing better or isn't doing well, like there's so many other outputs, and there's staff who are happy and safe and like in a healthy work environment where they're not being like hassled by their boss or, you know, stressed about this or that or anxious. And, you know, there's farmers and producers at the other end who are able to run their businesses and are able to, you know, do really great stuff with the land and regenerate land and then go on and support other people. Like, yeah, there's so many different ways for a business to be successful.
Yeah, I
that
love
aren't financial.
Yeah, yeah, you've got other metrics to go by. That's amazing. Well, we should wrap up in a minute. This might be too big a question for you, but I guess advice for bakers that are just starting out, because you like we said, only really started baking on a commercial level 2 years ago. Like, what would you say to bakers that are just starting out on this kind of path, if you would say anything?
Yeah. Yeah, there was so many things. One is probably like how valuable that relationships are, and whoever you talk to, like there's always an opportunity there. Engage with local people, like the amount of local trades that have led to, you know, relationships with help down the track, or they can come and fix something when something breaks, or they become customers and they'll just come in every day for a coffee. Or relationships is a massive one. I think another big one, like probably my biggest piece of advice for anyone starting any business, is like think about the lifestyle that you want from the business and like what you want as an output. It's not bigger is better. It's not any certain size is better. It's an opportunity to design, you know, your ideal job, which fits in with your values, which fits in with your lifestyle, which, you know, all works there. And then I think with baking specifically, it's just, yeah, like you just take it slow. Like the slower growth is probably healthier. I kind of wish we'd grown slower, maybe. And you just look at the individual bottlenecks one at a time. It's what, you know, which piece of equipment is slowing us down right now? Like, what's that? When can we buy a piece of equipment for that? And how expensive is it? When can we afford it? And you just go one piece of equipment at a time, or whether you need to move to a different venue. Just bit by bit, take it slow and have fun.
Love it. Oh, thank you, Josh. That's been awesome. I'm sure, I don't know if there are questions, but if there were questions, can you pop them in now again? I'll quickly, I think someone asked where we got that already in Shepparton. I don't know if I even said that at the beginning. And we're in Rutherglen, so we're like an hour away. I don't know if there are any questions. Good luck for the future, Josh. Part of your amazing background from Lisa. Oh, you have so many followers.
Crushes. So
cool. Well, we'll leave it there.
Easy.
Oh, I'm just trying to scroll to the bottom. Okay.
They're a nightmare, aren't they? You can like kind of read them when they're tantalizingly close, but you can't quite.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh, thanks.
We're happy to help. That's probably the other advice for bakers, is reach out to other people within the industry. They are very busy, so have lots of patience with them, but they will help you eventually.
Yeah, lovely.
very good.
And come and visit us. We'll help you.
Yeah.
We'll have you in the bakery. We'll show you around. We'll answer all your questions.
Yeah. You're very generous. And I think Shepparton is very lucky to have you guys.
Yeah.
Say hi for us, and
Will do.
Should have joined.
She's playing basketball.
Oh, okay. All right.
Alrighty.
Well, have a good night, and we'll...
Thank you. See you soon.